Hi, it's Pastor Andy with our Friday preview. And my question for you this week, not that I always start with a question, but my question this week is if you could ask God one question, what would it be? Now, I know you've probably played that game somewhere along the line. If you grew up in church, you played it as a kid, and you probably wanted to ask about dinosaurs. Maybe you still do. Maybe your question is about the presence of evil and why evil is a part of our world, or why did God allow evil? For me, my question changes. Maybe one time, maybe it was about Jonah, and I mean, Jonah, the chapter 4 just ends so abruptly. What happened? Jesus refers to Jonah later. Why and what happened after Jonah left Nineveh. Or in Matthew chapter 27, it talks about the people coming out of the tombs after Jesus died. I mean, what is that about? So, maybe it's a part of a story, maybe it's a word or a phrase, maybe it's like the little scroll that Daniel talks about in Daniel chapter 12, different things like that. Maybe I'll ask those questions, maybe I won't care, but as long as I'm with Jesus, wherever that is, I really won't care. But besides asking God questions, because some of those questions can be fun and some of them are serious, do you question God? Not do you ask God a question, but do you question God? Now, that could be taken as do you question God's existence? And I don't mean that. I mean, do you question what he's doing? Do you question why he's allowing certain things? I've said before, we can question the why, but a better question is to question what. God, what do you want me to learn from this? But maybe it's something about weather-related disasters. Maybe it's the question of evil that I mentioned a few moments ago. There's all kinds of reasons that we could question God. And as we look at our text this week in Romans chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, we see Paul continuing to have this conversation, this diatribe with this Jew of sorts. And in this Jew is asking questions of God. He's demanding some answers from God even. And is there an advantage to being a Jew? Paul seems like in chapter 2 he said there is no advantage. Has God broken his promise to the Jewish people? Why is God punishing the Jewish people? They're still in exile with Roman control. So why are those things happen? But whatever it is, we all have things and challenges that we do. Even in the Psalms, one of the reasons I love the Psalms so much is that they're so honest. And one of my Old Testament, a couple of verses that are so important to me in the Old Testament come from the end of Psalm chapter 73. But that psalm begins with the priest just, God, why do all the bad people get away with all this stuff? And why do all the people that try to serve and please you, well, why are we left behind in so many ways? We all have different kinds of question. So questioning God may be somewhat natural. And again, the Jews had those types of questions that they were asking, questions that were important to them. And Paul tries to address those questions. Uh, but it's not harmful to ask questions. I mean, God made us, and therefore God made us inquisitive. And he made us to question others. He made us to question life. He made us to question how certain things work so we can make them work better. And so as a part of that, we ask God questions. But as I've said many times, God is not afraid of our questions. I mean, even Jesus asked a question from the cross. Why have you forsaken me? God is not afraid of our questions, but are we ready for the answers that God might give us if we're willing to ask? So as we think about questions this week, quite frankly, we're probably going to have more questions than I can give answers. But I want to help us to better understand what Paul is trying to do in helping this Jew to understand the text that we will have this week from Romans chapter 3, 1 through 8. So I hope you'll join me. Maybe it's online, maybe it's in person, but I hope you'll join us this week as a church as we explore the first part of Romans chapter 3.